Okay, thank you very much for joining this event today. I'm Oki Matsumoto, CEO of Manex Group, and I am privileged to host this session. It's a future and potential of crypto asset, and inviting the Miss Kathy Wood, who is CEO of ARK Investment. As you all know, that she is the one of the most important person in the asset management business industry in the States or in the globe. So I am so excited to inviting Kathy, the superstar of the asset management, into this session. So Kathy, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Oki. I'm delighted to be here. I know Monex is a very progressive, innovative firm, and I love talking to leaders of innovative firms and to their clients.
Thank you so much. Okay, so here in Japan, there are growing interest and curiosity about the crypto asset. But before that, many people in Japan are very interested in hearing your story. You are so famous in Japan as well. And so can you maybe, before going to crypto, can you maybe talk about your kind of a general investment approach in the ARK investment?
Sure. Well, we have been blessed with clients in Japan, thanks to Nikko Asset Management, who found us when we were very, very young. And the 5 platforms, the disruptive innovation platforms, that's all we focus on, are going to transform the way the world works. So we're very interested in figuring out how the world is going to work. So DNA sequencing is going to transform healthcare. Robotics, especially collaborative robots, is going to increase productivity and create new jobs. Many people are afraid that robots will take away jobs. They'll take away the boring jobs. The new robots will increase everyone's productivity. Energy storage, so electric vehicles and how quickly they're going to scale during the next 5 years, thanks to companies like Tesla. Artificial intelligence, costs are dropping to train in the artificial intelligence world, 37% per year. So we're getting a boom in artificial intelligence, which is going to transform every industry. And finally, and what we're here to talk about, blockchain technology. Now, what's great about blockchain technology is it's an open source technology for the most part, at least the transformative part of the crypto world is open source. And that means it's going to evolve very, very quickly. And that indeed is what is happening. So we're keeping our eyes on it. We think the most important part of that ecosystem is Bitcoin. We see Ether and the Ethereum network rising as well in terms of DeFi, decentralized finance. But they're going to be truly provocative because we're talking about global money or global smart contracts, which are going to overcome the barriers created by geographies in the past.
I see. So, so you talked about 5 technologies areas: DNA, collaborative robotics, energy like EV, and AI, and the blockchain. So those technologies, it sounds very exciting, but sometimes great technologies don't necessarily mean the great investment. Sometimes just take tons of money for a long time and never produce the return. So when we think about investment, it has to be great technology as well as it has to be a good investment as well, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And just to set this up a bit, the seeds for the explosion in innovation that is taking place today, they were planted during the 20 years that ended in the tech and telecom bubble. Those seeds have been in the ground and now they are flourishing. There was too much capital chasing too few opportunities in the tech and telecom bubble. The technologies weren't ready and the costs weren't low enough. We feel that the technologies are ready today and the costs are dropping to a low enough level so that they will scale and become very good investments.
Oh, it's like a spring, all things coming up now.
Absolutely, that's right. It
I
only
see.
took 20, 25 years.
I see. So as for the crypto asset, that blockchain technology, sponsoring kind of tokens or whatever, how do you see the investment kind of value or opportunity in those crypto assets?
Well, in these early days, and it still is early, we believe that the market's going to evolve in a very different way from the internet in its early days. Remember, the internet evolved, but without any payment ecosystem involved in it, because no one ever knew it would be used for commerce. It was used for academia, for defense and intelligence. And now we have to fix that. And that's what's going on here. Now, the internet, the standards or the protocols on which the internet is based, they were free, right? And the real money was made in the applications on top of the internet. So Amazon, Facebook, Twitter. We believe the opposite is going to happen here. It's called the FAT protocol thesis. And what this means is that the big value, the value that we see that's going to scale to the greatest heights are in the currencies themselves. Because, right, they are going to be an indication of how valuable the underlying protocols are. And we think that Bitcoin is the most secure blockchain in the world and is going to accrue the most value because it represents the reserve currency of the crypto asset ecosystem. That's a very important role. And we do believe that it can serve and will serve all three roles of money. That's how we started learning about it. And to give you a sense how big this could be, my professor, Arthur Laffer Curve, he's well known in the United States. I'm not sure how well known in Japan. But he's an international monetary scholar.
Yep.
And we wrote our first Bitcoin paper with him, and he tore it apart. He needed to understand the theory behind it. And when he one day said, wow, this is a rules-based monetary policy. This is what I've been looking for. Now, he was looking more for a price rule. Bitcoin is a quantity rule. It will top out at 21 million units. Yep. But he thought it was fabulous. And so when he said that, I said, oh, how big could this be? And he said to me, back then, the monetary base in the United States was 4.5 trillion. He said, it could be 4.5 trillion. I said, it was $6 billion at the time, 4.5 trillion. And now we know, because we've done a lot more research, that it's going to be much bigger than 4.5 trillion. Right now, we're at 1 trillion already. So we've come a long way from 6 billion to 1 trillion. But we think it has miles to go. To give you a sense of some of the numbers out there, what is the global gold market in the financial world? What is that worth? $10 trillion alone. Bitcoin is digital gold. But we also are seeing institutional interest in Bitcoin now, because Cambridge Associates and other institutional consultants have basically said this is or could be a new asset class. So institutional investors who are looking for low correlations of returns have to have an opinion on it. That market alone, if we're right, and institutional investors allocated 5% of their portfolios, like many did in the early days for emerging markets or real estate, if they added just 5% or included 5% of their portfolios in Bitcoin, that alone would increase the Bitcoin price by $500,000. And right now we're at about $65,000. So you can see we think we're in the very early days of a major new asset class.
Okay, so it's a new asset class, and you see that the institutional investors are doing asset allocation, probably into like Bitcoins, and it will like 5%. And if it's 5%, the price of Bitcoin will probably go up from $65,000 to $500,000.
It would go closer to 600. The price would
600.
increase. Yes. So now that sounds crazy today, and I am surprised that it is happening this quickly. Here in the United States, an insurance company called Mass Mutual put $100 million into its general account. The insurance company or the insurance industry in the United States is one of the most heavily regulated industries. When we saw that happen, we said, oh my goodness, this is going to go more mainstream in the institutional world sooner than we thought. And we are seeing other institutions taking very small positions. For Mass Mutual, $100 million was nothing, but it was this idea that they were actually able to invest in it. Very interesting. And then the other thing that we have been surprised to see is that companies like Tesla and Square and MicroStrategy are diversifying some of their cash into Bitcoin. And we have done an analysis that suggests that if companies were to put 1% of their cash, and this is a US analysis, companies were to put 1% of their cash into Bitcoin, that would increase the price by 40,000. If they were to put 10% in, that would be another 400,000. Now, Tesla's position is roughly 8% of its cash. So it's not a crazy thought. And in fact, MicroStrategy has 100% of its cash in Bitcoin.
Wow. Is there any asset other than Bitcoin which has got the similar characteristics, limited correlation or negative correlation to other assets, and the potentiality of this kind of growth? Is there any other asset other than Bitcoin?
Well, we are very excited about Ether as well, and the Ethereum network, because DeFi, decentralized finance, is evolving on the Ethereum network. And if you look at where developers are spending their time, the number of developers that are on the Ethereum network right now is exploding. And Ether, we were wondering if it would develop currency characteristics, and it does seem that it is developing. So we have investments in both Bitcoin and Ether. Those are the two major ones. We are studying all of the others because it is an exciting new asset class. the reason most institutional investors and retail investors are more comfortable starting with Bitcoin is because that network, the Bitcoin blockchain, is the most secure. It is the most secure. So if investors want to safeguard their assets, they want to make sure that they're using the most secure network possible. The hacks on the Bitcoin network have occurred in the applications on top of the network. The underlying network has been very robust since it was created more than 11 years ago.
Yeah. So while this underlying network are very, very secured, but since it's a DLT, distributed ledger technology, the value is kind of existing naked, right? So once it's hacked, it's gone, right? So how people start feeling about this risk of kind of cyber security?
Yes, I think that in order to break in order to cause a 51% attack on the Bitcoin network, which would be the way to break it, it would cost an entity hundreds of billions of dollars to be able to do that. So it is the security associated with what the miners have built into the ecosystem that makes Bitcoin's blockchain the most robust. Now, we know that Ethereum has been hacked, and so and as you say, once hacked, unless some white hats have come to attack the attackers and take all the ether first, once attacked, it's gone. So I think the speed at which that network is evolving and the speed at which it operates is very, very important. Again, cybersecurity, open source systems are like big neighborhood watch ecosystems. Everybody's livelihood depends on this ecosystem. In the DeFi world, whether you're talking about credit and loans and so forth, savings and so forth, everyone's watching the network saying, I know that this network is more at risk than the Bitcoin blockchain. It moves faster than Bitcoin. That's one of the benefits of it, especially the smart contract part of it. And so I do believe that this open source eyeball, everyone saying we're all watching out for each other, has been a very important component of the security.
I see.
There will be accidents, though. There will be in some of these networks.
I see. So I understand that those networks are, very secure, particularly Bitcoin, very secure. But as you said before too, it comes down to the question of security of custodian or those kind of different part of the entire kind of ecosystem. And I understand that in the States, those are framework or regulations or those kind of things for crypto assets are really evolving. Can you talk about that part?
Yes, it was very interesting. One of the last things that Brian Brook, who was the head of the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, one of the last things he did was open up to banks, traditional banks, the opportunity to become nodes on any blockchain, whether a private blockchain or a public blockchain. That has really changed the equation. This is going to help banks cut their costs dramatically. They'll be taking out a lot of the middlemen that slow the process down and are expensive. So I think that's one of the biggest breakthroughs that has taken place. We also know that Gary Gensler, who just became the chairman of the Securities Exchange Commission today. He was voted in. He is a Bitcoin fan. He was at the CFTC.
Yep.
And then when his term was up there, he moved over to MIT, became a professor, and taught classes on blockchain technology.
Yep.
I think because he understands the technology so well and has such confidence in the security, I think the regulatory environment is going to loosen up fairly dramatically, so that we may get a Bitcoin ETF finally. It looks like there are maybe 10 applications in, and we think all might be approved at the same time. So it's going to be incredibly competitive.
You know, I used to work with Gary very closely. And also I visited him several times in MIT when he was there. So I hear you. He really understands deeply about those things. So it will be very interesting. It's good to have someone like him in the regulator side.
He is a very tough regulator.
I know.
But when he understands something, you know, he will fight for it. And so I think we're going to have an advocate, and I think the regulators in the United States and elsewhere, they don't want to be blamed for preventing their companies and country from benefiting from the next big idea. And this is a very big idea.
So in this, by the way, in this forum, after our dialogue, there will be a session by Commissioner Hester Pass.
Oh, wonderful.
With the Nathan from Anchorage and Perian Boring to moderate the session. So it should be quite interesting as well.
Absolutely. She's been terrific in terms of understanding and encouraging other regulators to take a look, because innovation is important to all of us. And so we've been very happy to have her as an advocate.
Yep. I would like to have someone like them in the Japanese regulator side as well.
It will happen. It will happen. It will happen. I know.
I hope so. Yep.
Yes. Well, I've been when China shut down its exchanges, guess where the trading went? The trading went to Japan and Korea and Thailand. So, Japan's very good in terms of this particular space, and the regulators will follow.
Okay, thank you. So you are the the goddess of the investment, and when you look at the crypto asset as a new asset class, what is the biggest difference or characteristics of crypto asset from other asset class? How they are different?
Yes, well, the first thing is the correlation of returns. The correlation of returns, crypto relative to anything else, very low, if not non-existent. Perfect for institutions. That one criterion alone is critical. But to set this up a little bit more, what's been fascinating is to watch our regulators grapple with what you're asking. What the SEC says, crypto is not a security. The IRS, which is our tax authority, calls it property. The CFTC calls it a commodity. What is it? What is it? Well, in our mind, it is software with commodity-like properties. Now, if you look at the correlation of returns, the closest correlation, believe it or not, is real estate, for whatever reason. So maybe the IRS is onto something, but we don't think that it is property. We don't. We think it's a completely new asset class. And we wrote that in a white paper in collaboration with Coinbase in 2016. So if you want to refer to that, you'll see how we go through what is an asset and take everyone through, okay, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this. Well, but it is a new asset class. So that would be on arc-invest.com, our research site.
I see. Thank you.
It's called Bitcoin Ringing the Bell for a New Asset Class.
Sounds very good. So when I think about other regular asset like shares, stocks, there is a fair value. So there's a kind of certain kind of limit how the price could go to. But it looks to me that something like a Bitcoin, it doesn't have fair value. So because of the supply demand, it could go even higher. Do you agree with that?
We do, and Yassine El-Mandra, our crypto analyst, has developed a dashboard because because everything in the Bitcoin ecosystem is so transparent. We are able to analyze supply relative to demand, and we are able to spot extremes. And that's very necessary from an active management point of view. When, for whatever reason, whether regulatory or a hack, demand is falling relative to supply, it will show up very quickly. And the same is true on the other side. When there's an incremental demand, it will show up quickly. So that's why when we see institutional investors investing in crypto, when we see corporations diversifying cash into crypto, and when we see emerging markets, individuals in emerging markets who are afraid that they're going to lose all of their wealth to corrupt regimes, that's another source of incremental demand. So we think it is a very important insurance policy against the confiscation of wealth. And that could be one of the biggest value propositions for Bitcoin. I often use the example in the Middle East when the princes were all locked up in the Ritz-Carlton by their own cousin, and their own cousin basically confiscated part of their wealth. Well, wouldn't it have been nice to have a private key in their brains so that they could walk across a border and get back into their own wealth?
I see. Interesting. Okay, so I have a last question, but it's kind of big question. CBDC, central bank digital currency. China is launching the EU1, and many other the countries trying to introduce CBDC as well. How you see CBDC? How this CBDC will affect the crypto asset ecosystem and also the price implication to Bitcoin and others?
Well, the first thing many of these CBDCs will do is disintermediate traditional banks. It will be direct to user, central bank to user. So that by itself is pretty provocative. But if you think of what's going on here, this is under human control. Unlike Bitcoin and other crypto assets, there are policymakers that are going to be determining how much money to put out there, how much to pull back. So it's human beings' decision making. There's no quantity rule, there's no price rule. It's monetary authority still. So from that point of view, nothing will change. In fact, because the central authorities, especially in China, will have so much oversight, they will see exactly what's taking place in the economy every second of the day. It may cause some capital to move out of the oversight into Bitcoin and others that have no oversight. So if you think about CBDCs, where what they've done is validate the crypto space. That's the most important thing that's happened here. And unlike the episode with Facebook and Libra, Libra was threatening these monetary authorities, and Libra was owned by one company, Facebook, one throat to choke. And that's what happened. That's what happened. The central bank said, no way. And in fact, so much so that Facebook had to change the name from Libra to DM. And we don't know what's going to happen there. I think the central banks will control their digital currencies. It'll be the equivalent of a fiat system, and it will further distinguish Bitcoin, which is controlled by no one. There's no throat to choke with Bitcoin. This is the first global currency ever. It's a global currency controlled by no one, stateless. And that is a pretty profound development in our global ecosystem. And we do think it will serve as an insurance policy against the mistakes that central banks will continue to make. They have throughout history, and they will continue to make mistakes. If you want a store of value, Bitcoin would be much more stable than in terms of purchasing power than fiat currencies or digital CBDCs.
I think CBDC will naturally improve interoperability over those crypto assets dramatically, and it should create a demand as well. Right.
Absolutely. So the ecosystems will feed each other. No question about that. That's a really wonderful way to think about it as well. So that's the win-win. But in terms of putting my economics hat on, because that's how I started in the business, it's human beings making monetary policy decisions in the CBDC space. It is mathematical metering in the Bitcoin space, and other currencies have different kinds of disciplines, other cryptocurrencies.
Okay, great. So we'd like to talk much longer, but I think the time is kind of up, and it was great, to listen directly from you about your enthusiasm to the Bitcoin and the crypto asset and other technologies. So thank you so much. We try to do something more from Japan as well.
Yes. Well, thank you, Oki, for giving me, Nikko Asset Management, and ARC such a wonderful opportunity. Your questions were wonderful. And I think you're really doing your clients and many other people a great service by helping them understand more how important this new phenomenon is called crypto.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Kathy Wood, CEO of ARC Investment. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye now.